Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Philly Fan Radio. I'm your host, John Myer, along with Dan Palmieri, and holy freaking shit, Dan, that was an awesome Super Bowl. I don't even know where to start.
Awesome Super Bowl, awesome win.
Speechless.
Yeah, not really good material for a podcast, the fact that I'm speechless, but yes. It's
Dude.
amazing, at the beginning of the season you envision these things happening. You're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to make the Super Bowl, we're going to win." And then when it actually happens, it's like, did it really just happen?
Let's take a step back here. After they crushed the Commanders, you and I were like, we're just going to win the Super Bowl. This is going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to. And then day by day went by. We're listening to all the news, all the commentators, all the analysts, watching everybody pick the Chiefs, talking about 3P, all this other stuff. And you and I were texting like day in and day out. Is this here? Is this here? And we're just like, oh my God, now I'm starting to get really nervous thinking like, oh, what if this doesn't happen?
Yeah, I say I'll never watch the national media again, but I will. But it's everybody picking Kansas City and then doing the side by side. It's like, okay, the Eagles are better in this position, this position, this position, but yet they're picking Kansas City. So something was there. I'm like, what the hell's about to happen here? At the beginning, like you said, at the beginning of the 2 weeks, I was like, oh, we're going to crush them. And then as it went on, I'm like, oh shit, we're not going to win this game.
I know as an Eagles fan, you're like, how can you doubt your team from not winning this game? But if you look and you listen to all this stuff and the analysts and be like, the Eagles dominated everything. Actually, in fact, I was more scared to play Buffalo than I was KC. If Buffalo was on the chart, I probably would have been as scared and concerned. But going into KC, if you watch Mahomes play throughout the entire year, they've won with one possession almost a lot of the games.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't look really that good. Kelce wasn't on par. He got a little hot there at the end, and in not only in the postseason, but now, like it was definitely. I wasn't concerned. I was concerned because it took too long to get here. I mean, 2 weeks. Come on.
Yeah, and I think it's a mentality when you've rooted on the team for as long as we have, so invested. You lived through the 90s. You lived through Ty Detmer, Coy Detmer, AJ Feely, Doug Peterson as a quarterback. So it's like, you just don't have like that full trust. You're waiting for the shoe to drop. It's like, oh shit, when is the bad stuff going to happen? But I mean, it didn't happen. And you know what? To be honest with you, other than the collapse last year, we have really been spoiled with really good Eagles teams. We are the class of the NFC. And I'm not just saying this year. I'm saying consistently we have been the class of the NFC. I mean, what was it? 3 Super Bowls, 7 years, 6 years, and 2 wins. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And it's a tremendous. The team is amazing, and we'll go into the game more. But I couldn't be happier to sit here today and be like, I am a Philadelphia Eagle fan.
Hats off to everybody on the Eagles team, right? I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about Saquon, Hurts and everything. We'll talk about Cooper DeJean, Bond, and the defensive line was absolutely amazing. Vic Fangio, a huge shout out. Kellen Moore and the play calling that happened. We'll talk about, what's going on with him. But hats off to everybody on the organization, Howie, the selections, the draft picks with, Nick, everything, not only with Cooper, Quignon, the steals that we got everywhere. It was just, I think they just put together one of the best teams. I know they put together one of the best teams because they just won the Super Bowl. And if we go back into that mentality for this year, it's just going to be, we're going to be going through a three-peat.
Yeah. And, and real quick, hats off to the fans not just us, the fans in New Orleans, because that was a home game.
You heard it.
You heard it on TV. I mean, I think I remember something similar 2 years ago when they played. Excuse me, I don't remember where the Super Bowl was. Arizona.
Arizona. Oh, was it Arizona? I was going to say, because I know when we played the Rams, it felt like, the thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it was just crazy. The fans were going nuts. Even got a nice little boo to Taylor Swift. That was quite pleasant. But but yeah, it was. I mean, the
I
fans
think some of that was
just
the Chiefs fans too.
yeah. Well, it's gotten ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, hats off to everybody. The organization, and we just there's nothing bad you can say. And every year I go into a season, and we'll go into it, but there's only a month away from the start of the new season. But I always say, okay, we really need to get this player in free agency. We really need to get this player. To be honest with you, into free agency, I can't say we need any players. I'm saying we need to resign players.
All right, so Dan, let's jump into the game a little bit. There was this one play that will stick out into everybody's mind, and we'll start calling out refs, and everybody just went like, "Is it going to be this?" It was 4th and 2, and we thought we were going to run it, right? Hey, listen, we're going to take it. Why don't we just Saquon it? And Hurts goes to the air, and he throws it a beautiful pass to AJ,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody saw it. Seconds later, the flag came out. Offensive pass interference. It was a little like this. Hands were fighting at that time. It was not even a push off. There was no extension. If you look at his hands, it was not even a push off. And we're like, oh shit, here we go. It's going to be one of those games.
Yeah, yeah. We both were cursing. It was ridiculous. It was, yeah, like you said, it was one of those where, oh God, we're gonna see this shit all game,
Yep.
and it's just ridiculous. Which I thought would kind of go the other way because of all the national attention it was getting. I kind of thought that they'd err on the Eagles side, but when that happened, we both were. We were both irate that it
Yeah.
happened because it led to a punt. But even so, it was setting like a tone for what the rest of the game was going to be like.
Yeah. Well, one of the things though, and here I think the rest were like, all right, man, we got to flick back. We got to give them something. And then there was a 15-yard on Saquon, a little bump there at the end, whatever it is. And
Mm-hmm.
listen, I'm not arguing. I'm an Eagles fan. I'll take that any day. But okay, I think the rest were like, oh shit, we got to get them back on our side. And they ended up, giving that 15-yard, which helped the Eagles out in one of the drives. But that was the only time that we needed or cared about anything, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the game was officiated evenly. To be honest with you, there were questionable calls on either side, but it didn't
But there weren't
benefit
too
one
many
team or the
though.
other.
Yeah, there
No,
weren't too
no, no,
many
there
calls.
wasn't.
That was actually the good part. I would like maybe 5 or 6 penalties throughout the game.
Yeah, and it wasn't anything like egregious. It wasn't anything like someone was breathing on Patrick Mahomes and they got a 15-yard penalty. So the
Oh,
game
there
was
were some
called.
nice sacks though.
Oh yeah, he got destroyed. He got destroyed.
Oh, well, let's talk about the immediate one. So first of all, going into this game, everybody was talking about, Saquon's going to run all over the place and he's got to do all this
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. And you know what? KC, they did limited Saquon's yards, right? I mean, they stopped him from it. He had 25 for 57.
Yeah.
And it was, if you think about it, 25-57, that's not Saquon numbers. But turn it around, when he did play the Commanders in the regular season game, he got like 62 yards or something. In Dallas, he got the other ones. But what happened then? So what they really did, and if you look at this game and you look up the close-ups of it, here's what happened. Okay, they limited his rushing, but he also got 40 yards in passing. And then watch him and
Mm-hmm.
all the blocking that he did. If you go back to some of the game and you go back and you watch it, Saquon was in there for a lot of the blocks, which allowed Hurts to pass. Oh my God, we have an excellent receiving corps. Hurts did what he can do. He went to passing. So I think they kind of like tailored this game knowing that, Saquon and our rushing might not get us there. So we have to have an alternative plan for passing. And Hurts had all day in the pocket.
Yeah, the game plan was spot on. Like you said, Spagnola just he did what he thought was best, and what we kind of thought they should do. The only chance they had to win, which was KC, was to stop Saquon, and they loaded the box. 7, 8 people, and brought some blitzes and everything, and they stopped Saquon, but they were daring Jalen to throw the ball because the narrative was Jalen is not that great of a quarter. He's average, and
Yeah.
just Jalen
I don't
torched
even
him.
think they gave him the average credit. I don't think they gave him credit throughout the entire season. Now, you and I were critical of him from game in and
Hmm.
game out, but we still knew the Hurts from back in the 2022 season. We know he could be there. I don't think they gave him even an average credit.
No, and I was in the middle of everyone was like dogging him, and I'm like, okay, well, the passing game isn't like that because A, they're not asking him to do anything because they're running the ball, and B, you know, I don't think he's like bad, but the fact was is we didn't need the passing game at those times. We didn't. And so why would he put up elite stats? And Jalen said it, and I was always brushing it off, but a win is a win. Who gives a shit how it looks? We were looking at it and we're like, okay, they won, but at some time they're going to need the passing game. And then all of a sudden we saw it in Washington. We saw it against Washington in the championship, and I think we just got to come to terms with the fact that Jalen Hurts is clutch. I mean,
Yep.
he outplayed Mahomes easily in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, and he outplayed Mahomes in the first friggin' quarter of this game. The man's clutch,
He
and
outplayed them in the first half. They got 0 points thanks to the defense.
mhm,
But if you look at a point, I absolutely loved it. Dan and I are very passionate Eagles fans, and we know going into the game that we're critical of the team, and
mhm.
we were never settled that it's could be dominant. We're already up like 2 or 3 scores. So I think you and I we weren't there yet until the fourth quarter.
No, I wasn't there because of the fact that I thought this was going to be like I had it in the back of my mind that okay, we're up by whatever 24, and it's going to be like, oh well, here comes KC's historic comeback and
Yep.
cements Mahomes as the next Brady because Brady came back 28-3 against the Falcons. Well, obviously it didn't happen, and we just kept our foot on their throat. It was beautiful. I mean, we just destroyed them. There wasn't one phase of the game. And I know, like, I'm looking at it and you look at the final score and it's like, KC got 22 points. My ass, they got 22 points. I don't care what the final score said.
Our second and third string were in the last one.
Yeah, yeah, they were talking about it on the radio. Like Xavier Worthy's got 150 yards receiving. He's a real good talent. But if you look at what he caught the ball, that long bomb on, it was McCollum and Sidney Brown, two safeties, second and third string. So congratulations to Worthy. You're better than our third string. Yeah, kiss my ass. I don't care what they say. 22 points, my ass. They didn't
That
get
was
that.
garbage time. That was garbage time.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a funny thing, and it's so true. Do you realize that Kenny Pickett has thrown more passes in a Super Bowl than Dak Prescott?
Actually, they listed them all off. Like, what was it? Like Love, Lamar, all the other ones. Do you know that?
It's fantastic.
Actually, I saw one where it was Jeremiah Trotter holding Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in what was it,
Hmm.
2004, 2005 during
Yeah,
the Super
yeah.
Bowl win. And now at this time in 2025, there they both are. And,
Hmm.
and Dallas hasn't seen the light of day.
It's fantastic. It just I had to bring that up because I found that hilarious.
I
Ken,
absolutely love it.
I don't think I've ever seen an instance where the team that won the Super Bowl actually rested their starters.
Have you
What
ever
are we
seen a
rest?
game like that? I mean, I have
What are
never.
we resting our starters for?
Hey, the free agency starts in a month. We should be a little bit reserved.
It's just it was the funniest thing to
Uh,
see Kenny Pickett come in there, and it's like, wow, that was an
it was an
embarrassment.
incomplete pass, by the way. His one
Hey,
and only attempt was an incomplete, but he
hey,
threw a
his
pass.
his QBR is higher than what Dak Prescott would be. So,
Exactly. I think the only mistake that Hurts made was the interception. And normally I would be really upset, even at that point in the game. I don't think you and I were upset at all because they
mm-mm.
pinned them back and defense was right there. Defense was dominating this entire game. 40-22 does not speak the actual what actually happened. The last few minutes were garbage. Defense just had them shut down. And Hurts, one mistake did not compare to the outcome of this game.
No, he played excellent. I mean, it's hard to put it in numbers, but considering taking into the stage that it was, taking into the fact that we're playing, and I'll go out there and say they are the best team in the AFC, easy, and they are a fantastic team. Rivaling the Brady led Patriots, maybe, but we destroyed a three-peat team that was cocky as hell and that a lot of people didn't give us a shot with. And we just destroyed them, dismantled them. The worst loss in Patrick Mahomes' career. Um, and it was incredible to see. It really was. Yeah,
You
it was
know,
just amazing.
Jake Elliott almost had more points than the entire, Kansas City Chiefs, and it was the highest points ever scored by a kicker in a Super Bowl. It was 16 points. Now, if they didn't get that last touchdown, then we know where they would be at with their point wise. But that's just, yeah. And Jake Elliott was spot on for this game. I mean, I know we were all nervous going into it. We were very critical of him in the entire season,
hmm
and he clutched it. He came around.
Yeah, I think that pretty much cemented him as coming back to the Eagles next year.
Yep.
I
I
mean,
mean, exactly. Why would you not?
mm-hmm,
You got to figure out that this year was an off year for them, but they didn't lose a game because of him.
exactly.
That would have been even a little bit more kind of on the table of like, okay, we need a backup for it. But Jake Elliott was spot on. The other thing I got to talk about, I mean, we can't talk enough about the defense that they did. Cooper DeJean, 22. And was it off the turn? So Hurts had the turnover,
I
and
think
then
so.
then it came back, and Cooper DeJean got a pick six, got the ball back, and ran it in. Like it was like 30 some yards or whatever it is, and I didn't even think he
hmm
was going to score, but he is phenomenal. That was one of the steals of the draft picks.
I mean, both their players. I
Yep.
mean, both their players. I mean, Quinion Mitchell. We all know how good he is. Future All Pro. Cooper DeJean. I'm gonna say the best slot corner in the league, and it's not even close. And Jalix Hunt was in there. He was our third round pick. He actually
Yep.
got the start over Bryce Huff, who wasn't healthy scratch.
He
So
was inactive.
yeah, he
Oh,
was.
that was a bad selection. I have to tell you, that was
It
probably the only
was.
thing that I would ask for my money back.
Yeah, it was, but you can't criticize him too much. I mean, it was every thing that he pulled off in the offseason being Howie, it worked. It really
Yep.
did. And whether that be coaching, whether or not, they recognize the potential. I mean, who the hell would have thought that Zach Bond, a rarely used outside linebacker who never played off the ball, who played special teams, would have come in and been a first team all pro off the ball linebacker who I personally felt should have won defensive player of the year, but that's beyond the fact.
Hats off to Vic for recognizing that in Zach Bond, because I saw him during preseason and practice, saw what he is able and capable to do, and he was like a no-namer to you. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I had to look him up. I'm like, from the Saints. I'm like, I didn't even know we
Mm-hmm.
got him from it. This was just it was another steal. Every move, every player you look at, I mean, it's not just one. They just don't have one on the team. Everybody on the team has stepped up, except for Huff, but have definitely did their
Yeah,
part.
and let's look at this. We talk about everybody did their part. Okay, I don't know the ages, but let's just throw it out there. Quinion Mitchell, rookie. Okay, he's going to be here a while. Cooper DeJean, rookie, going to be here for a while. Jalen Carter, absolute stud. He's going to be here for a while. Nolan Smith, who's become one of the best edge rushers. He's a second year man as well.
Yep.
We've got Chauncey Gardner Johnson, who I think is like 26, something like that. Reed Blankenship the same. Zach Bond is a little bit older. I think he's like 27, 28, but big
When
deal.
you say
He
a little bit older, it makes
well,
me
yeah,
feel old when you say,
in terms of this team, absolutely.
yeah,
What
yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, other than Slay, our team is very young, so you're not going to see that like real regression we have a team that's not just set up for this year. We have a team that defensively and offensively is going to be a juggernaut year after year. There's no reason why we can't be.
Well, they actually talked about it is that on the defensive side, zero blitzes. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine there was a zero blitz and 6 sacks into this game? Like they crushed Mahomes so many times. I literally ran into him and he had
Mm-hmm.
nowhere to go. When you look at Mahomes normally, he's out of the pocket rolling around. I just don't know if we had him contained so well that he just couldn't get there. But, Carter, totally up there. It just Smith, everybody was just into it. Sweat. I mean, how many times is Sweat in there? And we haven't heard his name mentioned much during the season, but he's always been an impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, the great thing was is that they kept contained. I mean, when Mahomes did run out of the pocket, our edge rushers are so quick. I mean, Nolan Smith is very, very fast.
Yep.
Jalix Hunt is very, very fast. We kept him. And the great thing was is that everybody kept pursuit. I mean, even when he stepped up and was going to try to run, everybody was just flying to him. And there is nothing bad, or there was nothing like that you can look at with this defense during that game and say, they struggled here. No. That
Nope.
was the
Not at all.
most dominating offensive slash defensive performance, well, team performance that I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I know I might be exaggerating because it's only a few days after the game, but I, with the stage, with the team that they're playing, with everything on the line, I feel like that was the best game I've ever seen the Eagles play from start to finish. And I don't consider the finish the whole third string bullshit. I don't. So
They finished in the third quarter. They were like, all right, we're good. But,
yeah.
this has probably been the first game that, while is the highly visible game and the mostly watched, by the way, they had the most views ever in a championship game at
Yeah,
all
so
in a
what
Super
what
Bowl.
happened to that big boycott that was going around? Everybody said, "Oh, we're going to boycott the Super Bowl because, the Chiefs are crap and blah blah blah. We don't want to see them."
You
Yeah,
know what they wanted
so
to
much
do? They wanted to see the Eagles beat the Chiefs, so they ended up watching it.
yeah, so much for that. So well, no, everybody was like, "Oh, it's rigged. The NFL is rigged. Blah, 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 blah. We're not going to watch
I,
it. We're
you
going to
know,
boycott it."
I think you and I were on the same page. We're like, oh my god, their refs, whatever, it's rigged and all that stuff. And we even talked about it. Is that the refs came out and made a statement how preposterous of you guys to say that it's rigged, and then we're like, oh well, why would you come out and say it if it's not? But
Yeah.
regardless, going back to it in our defense, and I just can't say enough about them. They held Travis Kelce to 39 yards. 39.
Mm,
I think his
mm,
longest catch was, 15 or something like that. Might have been somewhere right around there. But anyway, he was not a factor. There were so many drop passes, missed passes thrown behind it. It wasn't the receivers. I looked at the count. There was probably, I think there was like 10 or 12 different receivers or targets of Mahomes versus our 7 that were on the list and everything.
mm-hmm.
I think our defense was phenomenal everywhere, every aspect of it. I can't think of a single thing or single play that they weren't. There was that sideline. I think it wasn't at the Worthy where he got the touchdown at the one side or something like that, or Xavier.
Where he
Who was
dove
it?
back.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was on Chauncey Gardner Johnson.
yeah. So let me real quick read you just kind of go over the highlights of it. Has there ever been a shutout in a Super Bowl in the first half? Because yes, the Eagles just shut them out. It was
I don't know off the top
the
of my head.
I'd have to look at this because the Eagles first quarter 7, Eagles second quarter 17, and the cool part was that we got the interceptions. I mean, Bond got in there. We got the ball back. Cooper DeJean got it. It was like a 5-second turnaround on between
Mm-hmm.
interceptions and getting the ball back, and it was under the 2 minutes. Third quarter, oh, guess what? The Chiefs got 6. Yay.
Yay.
Because they went for the 2 point, didn't they?
Yeah.
Something like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
they failed. Yep.
And they failed that. So the Eagles got another 10 points. And then in the fourth quarter, with our third, fourth, fifth string in, we only got 6, and then the Chiefs got 16, and that's so. I don't even look at that. Either way,
This
yeah, complete domination all around. Everybody. There's even the interception from Mahomes. I can't even harp about. It was just a perfect performance.
absolutely, absolutely. There was nothing. It was a great scheme, and it was like you said. I mean, Mahomes just got destroyed, and the good thing was is that we were getting pressure up front. And when you look at it, even when he was scrambling, there was no one open. I mean, Mitchell was all over his guy. Slay, I
Yep.
got to give Slay props. He looked like he was 25 again. He looked great.
He had 2 weeks
We,
off. He was rested.
yeah, we all know DeJean played really well. There was, I mean, the defense looked like the defense has looked pretty much ever since the bye. Let's just say that.
All right. Let me ask you this question. I'm going to put you on the spot now that I just thought of it. Defense now, and you can include Nakobe Dean into this. Defense
Mm-hmm.
now, JJ error. How are we compared? How are we stacked up? Yes, we don't have the 3 Vincent and Dawkins, all that other stuff, but and they're rookies, so your assumption is they can only get better.
Mm-hmm. Um, I would have to say that defensively, this was the best defensive performance I've ever seen. And for this year, now since the bye, I mean, they finished first in most categories. I'd have to say that this was the best defense. And I'm the reason why I'm hesitating a little bit. I mean, we have the days of Eric Allen, Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde
I just said how they
Simmons.
compare. I don't want, I'm like, oh, this is better than them, but did they stack up
Oh,
against the JJ?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because
The
it's very
JJ
tough
team,
to do. Yeah.
well, the JJ team was completely different. I mean, we blitzed all the time. And we
Yep.
had, Vince and, like you said, Sheldon Brown, those errors. His defense absolutely stood up to that. And when you think about it, every tier of our defense, we have all pros or potential all pros. I mean, Chauncey Gardner Johnson, I don't know if he's all pro, but he's a pro bowler. At corner, we've got an all pro corner in Quinyon Mitchell, and we've got a former all pro in Slay. Then you go to linebackers, first team all pro um, Zach Bond. And then when you go to the line, you got Jalen Carter, who was an all pro. I mean, there was no weakness on this team. We went into the season, both of us, I think, and we said, our linebackers, Nakobe Dean really hasn't done much for us, and Zach Bond, who the hell is he? And
Mm-hmm.
there was no weakness on the defense. It wasn't one part that the Chiefs would be able to game plan and say, okay, this is how we're going to attack the Eagles. You couldn't because there was
Nope.
nothing. There was no and yeah, I'd have to say that this defense was absolutely on par and maybe even better than most. As we know, like in the JJ era, we were hampered by poor offensive play. It was never the defense.
Nope.
So,
It was always
but
undetermined. Okay.
mm,
Jalen Hurts, MVP. Of
well
course, it is
deserved.
yes. Yep. It's a QB, but he is well deserved in this. His poise in the pocket, his throws. Well, before I continue on, I actually let's finish that subject before we get into our offensive line a little bit. Jalen, he just looks great. I mean, he deserves it. I've seen some of his
Absolutely.
Disney videos and posts out there. I think he's smiled more in the last couple of days than he has all year.
Yeah, you could tell mentally he was exhausted. And you know what? I was critical of him. I'll be the first to admit I'm critical of him because I don't resonate with his personality. I want to see fire. I want to see someone that's screaming at players. So I thought that his leadership, and I mentioned it several times, I thought his leadership was questionable. But this year, everything came together, and we can't question his leadership. We can't question um, his play. I mean, he's a Super Bowl MVP, and I can't say that I'm happier couldn't be happier that he's our franchise quarterback and moving forward. I really, I'm sure next year there'll be times when I'm bitching that oh, Jalen, what the hell were you doing on that throw? You're holding the ball too long. But you know what? Hold the ball for 40 seconds. I don't give a shit. You won us a Super Bowl. And obviously it doesn't matter. He
I
wins.
think,
He wins. He
yeah,
really does. Look at his record. He wins.
even when he was winning, I think everybody was critical. Even sometimes you and I were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we're holding the ball that long."
Mm-hmm.
I do, and I think you and I are on the same page with his emotion doesn't show, right? But on the flip side of that, he's very controlled of his emotion, and when he makes a mistake, I don't think it sits with him. I think he takes like you got 5 minutes, turn it around, and now go. Forget about it. Like short term memory. I think that has really kind of elevated him as a player and allowed him to, be and is the top quarterback in the league. So it's really cool to just see him progress, and I think us progress as well. The other thing that I want to talk about is the offensive line. They have given him the opportunity to have that time in the pocket. We've had Cam Jurgens, Dickerson. We were always concerned with Kelce not being there.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Johnson's coming back for another year. He already said he's doing it. Malata, they're freaking huge. They were just
Mm-hmm.
on Jimmy Fallon the other night, and
Yeah,
it
I
was just
saw it.
nice to see. Like, it was pretty cool. They were shotgun. The only person who did not shotgun a beer was Jalen, who, I think already poured over like
He poured
Jurgens or
over
something.
Lander Dickinson.
Oh, Danielson. Yeah, that's who it
Yeah,
was.
Dickerson,
Jurgens
yeah.
was off to the side, and he's like, "Oh, my eyes," or whatever it is. So I, yeah, they all deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, what other team can you think of that would lose two potential Hall of Famers um, last season? What team can you think of that would lose two Hall of Famers and replace them with an All Pro defensive tackle and a Pro Bowl center and I I think second team, third team All Pro and
Yep.
Jurgens? I mean, that speaks volumes. It really does. You lose two Hall of Famers and you're replacing them with potential Hall of Famers. Doesn't get any better
Yeah.
than that.
Well, Dan, we're closely running out of time here because we could talk about this forever. First of all, are we seeing a dynasty? Is this the start of one?
I see no reason. I really see no reason why they couldn't be. I mean, they're young, they're under contract. There are several free agents that they need to sign. I don't know. We do have a good amount of salary cap left because Howie's worked the numbers beautifully. I see no reason. I mean, we're going to have stiff competition in the NFC, but for people that want to say, "Oh, well, we can go into Philly and beat them doing this way." Yeah, okay. They tried to beat us when we couldn't run the ball. We passed the ball. Okay, so you're going to play shell coverage and try to defend us against running the ball or passing the ball? We'll just rush with Saquon for 250 yards. So how are you going to stop us? And if you want to play us, you want to play against our defense. Okay, are you really going to try to pass on our defense? Good luck. Are you really going to try to run on our defense? You're screwed. Good luck.
Yep.
I see no reason.
Dan,
We're young.
Dan, this Friday, this recording will hopefully be out in the next 24 hours. This Friday is the Eagles parade. It
Mm-hmm.
is happening at 11 o'clock. I'm looking forward to returning after 7 years. I can't wait. I don't know if we'll get another Kelce speech, by the way, that will be memorable, but either way, it will be worth the effort.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I didn't get to go to the last one, as you know. I'm looking forward to the experience. It's gonna be awesome. Usually I'm not like, oh, I don't really want to stand in a crowd or whatever, but I am so looking forward to this. It's just to celebrate it, be in the moment, because you just think. And I tried to explain this to my wife. I tried to explain this to my son. People lived and died and not seeing championship for this team. And we really are spoiled. We get to see
Yep.
championships upon championships. So it's a once in a lifetime experience. My son doesn't have school already, but he would have been pulled out of school. I don't care. There's
I
more
told my
important
kids they
things.
could go if they didn't, and if it was during the week. And when they said it was Friday, I looked at the calendar. I'm like, oh, you don't have school. Look at that.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
Philly shutting down and everything. All right. Well, there's nothing really to talk about on the Chiefs. They lost horribly. They played like crap only because the defense dominated and, Hurts, totally killed them. Let's quickly wrap things up. Yeah, like you mentioned, free agency starts
in a
in
month,
one
on the
month.
10th.
Like seriously. I mean, I'm so look at it this way. For those teams that didn't make the playoffs, they've been in Cancun a while and having a longer break. So they're like, oh, I'm going to get back to it. For those teams like the Eagles, they get a shorter break and, then it's going to go into the offseason free agency. Things kind of progressing there. Dan, our free agents, why don't you go through them and talk to us about it? We need to sign them all. I have to tell you,
Yeah.
there's no reason not to sign them all.
Yeah, and well, if you can afford it, absolutely. I think the big ones are Mekhi Becton, our guard, our tackle made into a guard. And when I say, I'm going to say him and I'm going to say Bond, these are players that were kind of casted out by their other squads. So I think these are players that are going to be more um, reasonable with their requests. I think they're going to
Yep.
give us a hometown discount. I really do.
Yep.
We have them, Milton Williams, who I think you got to re-sign because he emerged as our other starting defensive tackle when it came to pass situations. BG. I know BG is on the fence right now. I personally feel that he should
You think he's
retire
on
on
the
top.
fence?
He said that he's got to talk to his wife. He still has the hunger to go again, but he's going to do what's best for his family.
I thought. I mean, I want to tell the guy to retire, but it's like, I don't know. Kelce
What else?
probably should have stuck
What
around
else
one
do
more
you
year,
have to
though.
win? What else do you
Yeah,
have to win? I mean,
I think
he
he
went
would be
out
great as
amazingly.
part of the organization.
Oh yeah, he already said that even if he leaves, he's going to be like they could bring him on as like an interning role. I don't see he'll be like a Kelce. I don't see him like staying away from the facility very long.
Yeah. All right. And while you mentioned Isaiah Rodgers, I believe we need to sign him because Slay's done. He doesn't want to play for Philly anymore.
Well, he's under contract. It's just he has a big
I
cap
know,
hit.
but
But
yeah.
yeah,
Maybe
I
somebody
mean,
will pick it up.
yeah. I mean, I
I heard the Jets need help.
the Jets need an entire franchise. Yeah, they need everybody. The Jets, yeah. I have nothing to say about them. I have nothing to. I have nothing to say about the
Damn, stumped you on
Giants.
that.
I don't even know how to approach that team or half these teams. Is like you could say, oh well, the Giants need help. Well, the Giants need a bomb, basically. And Dallas, Dak Prescott comes out and says, "Oh, we're so close to the Eagles. We're just a play or two or a person or two away from the Eagles." My ass, you're a play or two or a person. Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
You're screwed.
Please, I think they're just maybe one up on the Jets. I don't think Dallas is ever going to, even though they could be great as they get closer, but they'll just falter as it comes into postseason.
Well, think about it. You now have the Eagles, who we can say is a juggernaut in the NFC. Is Dallas going to be in a position where they're ever going to get a home playoff game? Or are they going to get a home playoff game in the near future? Because that means that they're going to have to go after the Eagles and Washington, who's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I could say easily that Dallas is going to be the third best team in this division. Whether or not that gets them a wild card, who knows? But do you really have confidence in Dak Prescott going on the road in the playoffs? I mean, do you really have Dak Prescott hopes of playing at home in the playoffs? So, anyway,
he'll play at home on his controller. That's the only thing he's got. Well, everybody, the Eagles have won Super Bowl 59, 40-22, total domination from start to finish. Watch the game. In fact, Dan, I have to tell you that I watched the game again on yesterday or Monday. I was watching on, I was on TV and it was the quick, like there was no commercials or there was, it was a shorter version. And I absolutely loved it. Oh, you know what? I can't wrap this up yet. By the way, I do have to ask you, and we have to do it on a recording only because I got to. What the hell was up with the halftime show?
I had to have your son tell me who the hell Kendrick Lamar was, so
He absolutely fucking sucked.
it was horrible. It was horrible.
All he did was want to sing his songs to make fun of another guy, and he sucked. And one of the members of holding up the Palestinian flag and all the other crap, and I just thought it was a horrible halftime show. I would have rather the marching band than him.
Yeah, and yet they said that his halftime show got like 136 million viewers. So
people just left the TV on. They didn't change the damn channel. That's it.
I guess. And I was lobbying for the Puppy Bowl.
we should have turned that shit on during it. That was horrible. All I know is everybody was putting in their opinions on who wanted to be for the country halftime show, because whoever picked him, this is ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, they faltered on that. I think the halftime show was garbage, and I personally felt like the national anthem was a complete flop.
You don't change it. You don't put your spin on the national anthem. You don't. You're messing. First of all, while the halftime show, you can fuck it up, you just don't do that. I think that was another miss on their part. I mean,
complete miss.
Yeah. Thank God we had a dominating performance by the Eagles to, kind of offset things.
Well, here's the most important question to that is, what was better, the Chiefs or the halftime show?
Oh, hold on.
Neither.
The coin flip.
They were both a dumpster fire. So
yeah, they definitely were. So, Dan, before I wrap things up, I have a cool item for you, and I've been waiting on this show to give it to you. I was actually going to give it to you Friday, but I can't wait anymore. I got a couple of these for you. All right, you ready? This is for you, and I got a couple of them for you.
Ah, very nice. Is that legal tender at the casinos?
It's our legal tender. If you scan the QR code, it goes to our website where you can listen to all the podcasts available. I've got a bunch of these for you. It's a little token.
That's awesome.
All our stuff that we do. It came in on Tuesday. I was hoping it would come in before you got here, before the Super Bowl. But anyway,
awesome.
It's on my desk. These are awesome. You'll enjoy these. I'll give you a bunch
I will.
of them. And in fact, I've got a whole token of them.
Nice.
So
that is nice. That's cool.
Yeah. You'll enjoy those. Everything.
I will.
That's all right, everybody. This has been the Philly. All right, everybody. This has been the Philly Fan Radio. I'm your host, John Myer, along with Dan Palmieri. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify, because your Eagles are Super Bowl 59 champs, 40-22, and we hope to see you at the parade. Everybody. EAGLES, Eagles! Go Birds!
Go Birds!